According to reports from large-scale population genetic research, the genetic story of people living in the modern Philippines begins far earlier than written history. Evidence indicates that the earliest ancestral foundations were laid tens of thousands of years ago, during periods when climate conditions reshaped coastlines and altered migration paths across Southeast Asia. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origins of Filipinos by demonstrating that these early populations were not isolated groups arriving once and remaining unchanged, but dynamic communities shaped by repeated movement and adaptations. Experts suggest that early settlers reached the island using coastal routes, following food sources and stable environments rather than political or territorial goals. This initial movement created the first genetic layers that would later interact with new arrivals. Archaeological and genetic findings indicate that these early communities developed survival strategies tailored to Ireland ecosystem. According to researchers, a reliance on fishing, foraging, and small-scale agriculture supported stable populations over long periods. As a result, genetic continuity was preserved even as environments changed. Scientists revealed surprising genetic origins of Filipinos by showing that this continuity explains why some genetic makers found today are among the oldest in the region. The cause of this persistence was long-term settlement combined with geographic fragmentation, while the effect was the development of distinct but related genetic profiles across Irelands. As sea levels rose after the earlier Ice Age conditions, land bridges disappeared, transforming connected landscapes into isolated islands. Evidence indicates that this environmental shift reduced large-scale movement but increased local adaptation. Experts suggest that communities began to diverge genetically as interaction between islands became less frequent. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origins of Filipinos by linking these environmental changes directly to measurable genetic variation. Rather than a single origin story, the data points to a layered foundation shaped by time, geography, and survival needs. This stage also highlights how genetic diversity developed without abrupt population replacement. According to reports, early genetic signatures remain present in modern populations, indicating coexistence rather than displacement. The cause and effect relationship is clear. Stable early settlement allowed an ancestral DNA to persist, while later movement added complexity instead of erasing it. This opening phase establishes the biological groundwork for understanding how later migrations would interact with an already diverse population base. By the end of this phase, the genetic structure of the Ireland was already complex. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origins of Filipinos by emphasizing that modern identity is built upon these deep foundations. This chapter concludes by setting the stage for the next major development when technological innovation in seafaring would reopen the Ireland to broader regional interaction. According to experts in population history, a major turning point occurred when maritime technology advanced across Southeast Asia. Evidence indicates that the improved boat construction and navigation skills enabled regular sea crossings between Ireland and neighboring regions. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origins of Filipino by showing that this technological shift directly caused increased human mobility. The effect was not sudden population replacement, but sustained contact that introduced new genetic influences over generations. Reports suggest that these maritime networks supported trade, communication, and intermarriage rather than conquest. Coastal settlements became centers of interaction where genetic exchange occurred gradually. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origin of Filipino by documenting how these exchanges blended with existing populations, producing layered ancestry rather than uniform outcomes. The cause was increased connectivity, while the effect was a rise in genetic diversity without loss of earlier lineages. As maritime movement intensified, different islands experienced varying levels of interaction. Evidence indicates that the communities along major sea routes show stronger genetic signals of external contact, while interior regions retained older genetic patterns. Experts suggest this uneven exposure explains why genetic diversity within the Ireland is so pronounced today. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origin of Filipino by tracing these differences directly to patterns of movement and settlement rather than later historical events. This phase also reveals how genetics reflects economic behavior. According to research findings, areas involved in trade networks exhibit markers associated with the repeated contact and integration. The cause was sustained interaction over centuries, and the effect was a genetic signature reflecting cooperation and exchange. Rather than focusing on isolated events, this chapter highlights slow, cumulative change driven by human mobility. By the close of the stage, the genetic landscape had become increasingly complex. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origins of Filipino by emphasizing that maritime expansion acted as a catalyst for diversity, not disruption. This prepares the narrative for the next phase, where local environments would further shape genetic outcomes in distinct ways. According to scientific studies, geography played a decisive role in shaping genetic variations across the islands. Evidence indicates that the mountainous interiors, dense forests, river valleys, and coastal plains created different survival pressures. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origin of Filipinos by linking these environments to biological adaptation rather than social division. The cause was environmental diversity, and the effect was the development of region specific genetic traits. Experts suggest that communities in isolated highland areas experienced limited external contact, preserving older genetic makers. In contrast, coastal populations continued to interact through trade and travel, maintaining higher level of genetic mixing. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origin of Filipino by showing how these patterns explain present-day genetic differences without invoking conflict or hierarchy. This phase demonstrates how daily life and environment shape biology over long periods. Health and resilience also played a role. According to reports, certain genetic traits linked to climate tolerance and disease resistance appear more frequently in specific regions. The cause was long-term exposure to local conditions, while the effect was improved survival and population stability. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origins of Filipino by presenting this finding as evidence of adaptation rather than anomaly. This stage underscores that diversity emerged naturally. Evidence indicates that genetic variation increased as communities adjusted to their surroundings. Scientists reveal surprising genetic origins of Filipino by reinforcing that this diversity is a strength rooted in the history. This chapter concludes by transitioning to the modern era when scientific tools would finally make these invisible patterns